Hey, Awesomes. Welcome to week 7. Happy Monday, October 17th to you. Um, I hope you're having a good weekend. I hope you're having fun with the annotated bibliography and preparing for the literature review, which is coming up this week. And so I'm going to kind of tailor all of our learning and all of our writing and our reading is going to be kind of focused on getting that done this week. So I have made some changes to the schedule for this week, which I will address with you shortly. Before that, I will be getting to your blog posts, hopefully, if not later this afternoon or tonight, most likely tomorrow afternoon. So hopefully make some progress in getting you some feedback on those as well. So we shall go from there. So I'm going to minimize myself here, and so I'm down here in the corner. Okay, so here's week 8. Watch the week 8 video. At least one video this week, and then we have the student sample text linked below, which we're going to talk about those in a second. And then by Friday night, we want to draft your literature review, Project 3A, and upload your draft to the discussion board by 11:59 p.m. Friday for feedback. And we've done this before, right? You're going to post it to the discussion board by Friday, and then between Friday night at midnight and Sunday night at midnight, please read at least a minimum of 3 of your peers' drafts, and provide comment, and I'll show you what that looks like, and I have provided questions for you as we did before. Okay, and this is a draft day, so recall that there are 25 points involved in this the draft project over the weekend. So, so here's your calendar. By Wednesday, watch this video and read the sample text. By Friday night, 11:59 p.m. to the discussion board, add a thread posting your paper, and then by Sunday night, respond to 3 drafts. All right, so we have the 2 student sample texts and then the peer review setup. So let's start with the peer review. Let's start with the looking at the 2 texts. So the first text we're going to look at, and these are the 2 that are down at the bottom of this week's assignments. So the main thing I kind of want to point out to you, the difference between the 2 drafts, and as you'll notice up here at the upper left-hand corner, it says Student 2 C+. So this is kind of one of those papers that's probably like a 75, 76, 77, or 78, or whatever the numbers come up for C+ are. The one thing I want to kind of point out to you, the difference between this draft and then the more successful draft that we'll look at second, has more to do with the fact of summary versus conversation. So really want you to kind of think about those 2 words. This particular one here does a fairly decent job of summarizing their articles, but does not then put those articles in conversation with one another. Okay, so recall that a few blogs ago I had you find launch texts, and then I asked you to take those launch texts, and we then started to see how other people were participating in the same conversation, and maybe they were saying different things, but they were talking about the same subject matter, the same topic, or the same matter of concern in that discourse community. And so what this paper lacks when you read over this paper this week, and in terms of thinking about how you're going to write your literature review, really think in terms of this author here is not putting those texts in conversation. One is not saying, well, while this author is saying so-and-so and so-and-so about the topic, whereas this author is saying this and so-and-so and so-and-so and so, right? So maybe here's where they're similar, and here's where they're different, and here is why. And so that's when we get into some of the little bit of literature review is not necessarily analysis, but it does have an analytical component where you are analyzing how one author is handling a particular subject and how the other one is handling the subject either similarly or differently. Okay, so this one really reads more like a review, and the ratio, there are 0 quotes, if I'm not mistaken, in this paper last time I read it, mostly paraphrasing. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is a good balance of both. You definitely want to have, you don't want to have all paraphrasing, you don't want to have necessarily all quotes either. You want to have a nice balance in each one of those. So let's also talk about what the writer's doing well, though, too. I like that we have the introduction that's clearly marked up here on the first page. Second page, we have retinal degeneration, so we have some subheadings that allows us to follow. Here's current work in stem cells for retinal regeneration, etc. What we don't have is that clear focus combined with how these authors are handling this one matter of concern and how they are talking about these in conjunction with one another. And so that's probably the biggest thing that you might want to think about, in my opinion, on this paper, that this paper really hinges on that, whether you're putting your text in conversation with one another and how they are applying to and all handling your topic and your area. That's probably the one thing. So I'm just going to scroll down here to make sure. There's one section down here that we have zero quoting or zero anything. All right, so here for an example right here. So look at this. We have this. Not only does this treatment allow us to da 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 da, and then kind of I think in lieu of saying what each person said, okay, we have this long list of here's all the authors that kind of said about this thing right here. So not only does this treatment allow us to control cancer cells, but also allows us researchers to cater to the control over cells, getting them to behave in the way they want to pursue using proteins, gene markers on cells, which can be applied to red cells. So that A, that's a lot of information. B, then we have this string, right, of a bunch of authors who perhaps said that, or maybe they're all authors on one particular survey or research paper, but we're not getting the idea of how those authors are putting those into. Right? See how that sounds more summary than it does analytic. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then here's the last section, a conclusion. Even your conclusion, while it might not have any quoting, you perhaps definitely want to make some sort of resolution. While so-and-so and so-and-so have approached it this way, so-and-so and so-and-so have approached it this way, so-and-so and so-and-so, blah, 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 okay? So you still want to kind of have, there still needs to be this this concert feel, or this conversation feel, right? Or even a debate feel. Maybe you've got two opposing, really opposing viewpoints on your matter of concern. So you might want to take that into consideration. And then, of course, obviously, if this is a works cited page and it's improperly formatted, there's no alphabetical order, things of this nature. So please do keep in mind that on this particular paper, we should have our formatting a little closer down, and we want to definitely put all of our sources in concert, in conversation with one another. Okay, so let's. All right, this one's in APA format. Still a few issues with the formatting, but one thing I want you to notice when you do read this one is you get more of a sense of the conversation that's taking place, right? You get a more nuanced understanding of what's taking place when it comes to jazz history, jazz musicians, and let's see more specifically what are the view of female jazz musicians and the impact of this view. So this research question was also considerably more interesting. And then when we get inside under this first heading down here, I really like how despite an overall male dominance within the jazz community, many women have attempted. And then we start to see some quotes being brought in. And then we bring in Melissa as one of the female musicians who broke the female barriers. We start to get already a sense of how this conversation is taking place. Historically, women are seen to have this, and of course he's got his own, he's doing a different version of, I think this is Chicago style, actually, as opposed to APA. And so his conversation is, he has the quotes, and then of course he has, since he is using this numbered system or footnote system, we get a chance to look down here and see all of these different authors that are then being taken in the conversation as opposed to a summary. And so you kind of just get a feel as you read through this, that conversation feel as opposed to a summary feel. And I like this right here too. Right here, highlighting this right here, you can probably see it. I think you might see it a little differently. There remains a gap of information regarding female jazz musicians and their individual contribution. All right, so in conclusion to this one section, he has mentioned these authors and how they're all talking about the situation, and he notices that there is a gap that's concerning here. And this is one thing that you also want to try to identify as you're looking through your reading your text for your literature reviews, finding that situation where you've got. All right, here's a good example. The National Endowment of the Arts for found groups at 47%, 15%, 6% unionized. McKeach found at 628 college musicians, significantly more men participate in jazz participation. One reason for the lack. So we're already starting to get this sense of there's a conversation taking place and where the lacks are, or where the gaps are, how it's being talked about, as opposed to just a summary of somebody's research. This is a very good, strong conversation taking place. So I encourage you to read this one and get a sense of how it's reading, how it's written, and how how this author particularly is handling all of the different people that are in here. And because one thing I do like is when you go from one section to the next section, then you can see right in here, here we are later on the paper, he brings back in McKeach, another author that he referenced earlier. So there's this constant conversation, even down to how they conducted a study, to their findings, to their conclusions. It's really, really strong and very well written. So I encourage you to take a look at that. So let's go back to week 8. So at the bottom here, we have the Project 3 literature review, peer review. So when you turn in your paper by this Friday night, you'll come to this section here. So let's go to forum. Discussion board. Here it is. Okay. Where is the thread? Okay. So when you go to create, you have to hit create thread to see the descriptions up here. Similarly, before title, yours, LR, your last name, and then make sure that you each one of you has at least 2 to 3 sets of comments on every single one when you're doing your 3. And then here are those 7 different questions here. Main purpose of the literature review. Is it stated explicitly? How does the writer help you read through his text? Do you need more help following the outline of the scholarship? Is there a sense of conversation? Are we balancing quoted and paraphrasing? And then here, which ideas in the discussion of scholarship seem really important or interesting, and which ideas help you need more, or do you need more understanding? So that's where you start to get that idea of the flow of how this is reading more like a literature review as opposed to a summary. And that is one thing that we want to kind of make sure that you emphasize. Okay. So let's go back to our weekly assignment task. So just remember that by this Friday night, you want to have your, more specifically, you want to have your draft uploaded to the discussion board. Recall to get this discussion board instructions to pop up, you do have to hit create thread, which I forgot for there for a second, so sorry. All right, so we're back here to week 8, and then get your draft uploaded by Friday. Read the student sample text below. Keep reading your text. Get those really good conversation. Obviously, focus on the student sample here that's successful. Get yours to flow like that in that conversation. And then by Sunday night, you'll complete your peer response on 3 drafts. I'll try to do my best if I can update you in the middle of the week, but this week's pretty self-explanatory. Get your literature review done. Don't worry about Project 3B right now. I'm going to reassess how we're going to handle that perhaps later in the semester. I really want you to focus on getting the literature review done at this point. So that's all for now. Sorry for the long video. Hope you guys have a great week. Talk to you soon.